The power of a paradigm.
Okay.
Shall I start?
Yes.
Yeah. The seven habits of highly effective people embody many of the fundamental principles of human effectiveness. These habits are basic, they are primary. They represent the internalization of correct principles upon which enduring happiness and success are based. Before we can really understand these seven habits, we need to understand our own paradigm and how to make a paradigm shift. Both the character ethic and the personality ethic are examples of social paradigm. The word paradigm comes from the Greek. It was originally a scientific term and is more commonly used today to mean a model, theory, perception, assumption, or frame of reference. In the more general sense, it's the way we see the world, not in terms of a visual sense of sight, but in terms of perceiving, understanding, interpreting. For our purposes, a simple way to understand paradigm is to see them as maps. We all know that the map is not the territory. A map is simply an explanation of certain aspects of the territory. That's exactly what a paradigm is. It is a theory, an explanation, or model of something else. Suppose you wanted to arrive at a specific location in central Chicago. A street map of the city would be a great help to you in reaching your destination. But suppose you were given the wrong map through a printing error, the map labeled Chicago was actually a map of Detroit. Can you imagine the frustration, the ineffectiveness of trying to reach your destination? You might work on your behavior. You could try harder, be more diligent, double your speed, but your efforts would only succeed in getting you to the wrong place faster. You might work on your attitude. You could think more positively. You still wouldn't get to the right place, but perhaps you wouldn't care. Your attitude would be so positive, you would be happy wherever you were. The point is, you would still be lost. The fundamental problem has nothing to do with your behavior or your attitude. It has everything to do with having a wrong map. If you have the right map of Chicago, then diligence becomes important, and when you encounter frustrating obstacles along the way, then attitude can make a real difference. But the first and most important requirement is the accuracy of the map. Each of us has many map in our head, which can be divided into two main categories. Map of the way things are or realities, and map of the way things should be or values. We interpret everything we experience through these mental maps. We seldom question their accuracy. We are usually even unaware that we have them. We simply assume that the way we see things is the way they really are or the way they should be. And our attitudes and behaviors grow out of those assumptions. The way we see things is the source of the way we think and the way we act. Before going any further, I invite you to have an intellectual and emotional experience. Take a few seconds and just look at the picture on the opposite page. The picture is not given in the PDF, but I have the book, I have the picture. If I can share the screen, then I can show. Is it?
Uh, so- Sandhya, you'll have to be able to give your screen sharing, right, Sandhya?
Uh,
See if you can.
or Priya, if you can click a picture and post it in the chat.
I'm doing it on my laptop, ma'am.
Okay, sorry.
or I can open my camera and show this. So show the picture. Is that okay?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
That would also be fine.
You know, I'm
I
showing.
have given, I think.
It's given. This is the picture. Shall I start reading?
Just show the picture once again.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Now look at the picture on page 34 and carefully describe what you see. Do you see a woman? How old would you say she is? What does she look like? What is she wearing? In what kind of roles do you see her? You probably would describe the woman in the second picture to be about 25 years old. This is the second picture. First. So this picture, she looks like young, but then when you look into it deeper, she looks like an old woman.
You can read this, Priya. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. You probably would describe the woman in second picture to be about 25 years old, very lovely, rather fashionable, with a petite nose and a demure presence. If you were a single man, you might like to take her out. If you were in retailing, you might hire her as a fashion model. But what if I were to tell you that you are wrong? What if I said this picture of a woman in her 60s or 70s who looks sad, has a huge nose, and is certainly no model? She is someone you probably would help across the street. Who's right? Look at the picture again. Can you see the old woman? If you can't, keep trying. Can you see her big hook nose, her shawl? If you and I were talking face to face, we could discuss the picture. You could describe what you see to me, and I could talk to you about what I see. We could continue to communicate until you clearly showed me what you see in the picture. Ma'am, did you call? Shall I continue?
Yes.
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay. If you and I were talking face to face, we could discuss the picture. You could describe what you see to me, and I could talk to you about what I see. We could continue to communicate until you clearly showed me what you see in the picture, and I clearly showed you what I see. Because we can't do that, turn to page 53 and study the picture there and then look at this picture again. Can you see the old woman now? It is important that you see her before You continue reading. Shall I show, ma'am?
Yes, please. Show the other picture as well. Again. Ah. Ah.
The picture on page 53, you said.
Yeah, ma'am. 53. This one.
Okay, so this is the picture.
Yeah. I first encountered this exercise many years ago at the Harvard Business School. The instructor was using it to demonstrate clearly and eloquently that two people can see the same thing, disagree, and yet both be right. It's not logical, it's psychological. He brought into the room a stack of large cards, half of which had the image of the young women you saw on page 33, and the other half of which had brought the image of the old women on page 53. He passed them out to the class, the picture of the young women to one side of the room and the picture of the old women to the other. He asked us to look at the cards, concentrate on them for about 10 seconds, and then pass them back in. He then projected upon the screen the picture that you saw on page 34, combining both images, and asked the class to describe what they saw. Almost every person in the class who had first seen the young women's image on the card saw the young women in the picture. And almost every person who had seen the old women's image on a card saw an old woman in the picture. The professor then asked one student to explain what he saw to a student on the opposite side of the room. As they talked back and forth, communication problems flared up. What do you mean, old lady? She couldn't be more than 20 or 22 years old. Oh, come on. You have to be joking. She's 70, could be pushing 80. What is the matter with you? Are you blind? This lady is young, good looking. I would like to take her out. She is lovely. Lovely? She is an old hag. The arguments went back and forth, each person sure of and adamant in his or her position. All of this occurred in spite of one exceedingly important advantage that students had. Most of them knew early in the demonstration that another point of view did, in fact, exist, something many of us would never admit. Nevertheless, at first, only a few students really tried to see the picture from another frame of reference. After a period of futile communication, one student went up to the screen and pointed to a line on the drawing. There is the young women's necklace. The other one said, no, that's the old woman's mouth. Gradually, they began to calmly discuss specific points of difference, and finally, one student and the another experienced sudden recognition when the images of both came into focus. Through continued calm, respectful, and specific communication, each of us in the room was finally able to see the other point of view. But when we looked away and then back, most of us would immediately see the image we have been conditioned to see in the 10-second period of time. I frequently use this perception demonstration in working with people and organizations because it yields so many deep insights into both personal and interpersonal effectiveness. It shows, first of all, how powerfully conditioning affects our perceptions, our paradigms. In 10 seconds, we can have that kind of impact on the way we see things. What about conditioning of a lifetime? The influences in our lives, family, school, church, work environment, friends, associates, and current social paradigm, such as the personality ethic, all have made their silent, unconscious impact on us and help shape our frame of reference, our paradigms, our maps. It shows that the paradigms are the source of our attitudes and behaviors. We cannot act with integrity outside of them. We simply cannot maintain wholeness if we talk and walk differently than we see. If you were among 90% who would typically see the young women in the composite picture, when conditioned to do so, you undoubtedly found it difficult to think in terms of having to help her cross the street. Both your attitude about her and your behavior towards her had to be congruent with the way you saw her. This brings into focus one of the basic flaws of personality ethic. To try to change outward attitudes and behaviors does very little good in long run if we fail to examine the basic paradigms from which those attitudes and behaviors flow. The perception demonstration also shows how powerfully our paradigms affect the way we interact with other people. As clearly and objectively as we think we see things, we begin to realize that others see them differently from their own, apparently equally clear and objective point of view. Where we stand depends on where we sit. Each of us tend to think we see things as they are, that we are objective. But this is not the case. We see the world not as it is, but as we are, or as we are conditioned to see it. When we open our mouths to describe what we see, we in effect describe ourselves, our perceptions, our paradigms. When other people disagree with us, we immediately think something is wrong with them. But as the demonstration shows, sincere, clear headed people see things differently, each looking through the unique lens of experience. This does not mean that there are no facts. In the demonstration, two individuals who initially have been influenced by different conditioning pictures look at a third picture together. They are now both looking at the same identical facts, black lines and white spaces, and they would both acknowledge these as facts. But each person's interpretation of these facts represent prior experiences, and the facts have no meaning whatsoever apart from the interpretation. The more aware we are of our basic paradigms, maps, or assumptions, and the extent to which we have been influenced by our experience, the more we can take responsibility for those paradigms, examine them, test them against reality, listen to others, and be open to their perceptions, thereby getting a larger picture and a far more objective view. The power of a paradigm shift. Perhaps the most
Uh,
important.
Priya, before you go to the next paragraph, next section, why don't you just take a break and discuss what everybody understood? Okay?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you.
So what did you guys came to know from the power of a paradigm?
Okay, did everybody understand what Priya ma'am just read?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So why don't you all give your takeaways? Fauzia, Chandrasekhar, I think Chandrasekhar just came in now. Chandrasekhar, Murari, Fauzia, and Taranjit, please first give your takeaways and then we can speak about. Then Chandrasekhar, you can come in if you think you can speak. Okay?
Sorry, can I know? Actually, I joined late. I searching which paragraph. I still I am confusing, ma'am.
Okay, 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 fine. So Priya, I think you will have to guide him.
Yeah, ma'am. I'm starting from the PDF page 10. The power of a paradigm.
Okay. So, Murari and Fauzia and Taranjit, please do tell me about your takeaways.
Yeah, ma'am. uh, like when we are doing any work or like any like we are going to any new place, like we should have a like clear plan, like how should we go, or like where should we go. We should have a clear plan and like strategy to go something where like we are going to a new place, or like how should like how all the nature it is, like we have like some clarity about it, and like we can plan it, I think.
Yeah, but that was the example that has been shown. Like how we see things is not how everybody sees. Like just because we have been conditioned in one way, so we see it that way. So like there is two sides to a coin. So we have to see both the sides. So
Yeah,
that's
it's correct.
Great. Fauzia, did you have any opinion about what just Priya ma'am had read?
Yeah, ma'am, it is about strength, peace, some of the things.
Okay. Okay. So that's what you understood. Good. So, see, please understand, we just read something that said every one of us will see different things. So, this is the biggest example of that. Don't you think so, Priya?
yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, chalo. Taranjit, do you have anything to say?
Yes, the thing what the author is trying to explain over here is that everybody has a different perception of seeing, looking at things. And when we discuss with that person and understand that person's point of view, we come to know what the actual thing is. Many a times, like with this picture, I have already seen it before. There are so many pictures like this where I can see a horse and somebody else can see a frog. So it is neither he is wrong nor I am wrong, but it is the way that I'm being conditioned. I just want to give an example. When I was doing my B.Ed research, in that time, I had taken this example that a dog was shown a bone at a particular time, and when that bone was shown to him, and a bell rang, and he would the saliva would come out of his mouth looking at the bone and ringing of the bell. And later on, like after a few days, they stopped ringing, they stopped showing the bone. Only when the bell rang, he used to salivate. So that means the conditioning of the brain happened. In the same way, here also the author says that our brain or my value system or my ethics what I have are different from others, and many I would see the things from a point of view, but we should respect the other's point of view also and try to understand from what is the fact from the other's point of view also.
Okay. Good. Good. Thank you so much. Anybody else wants to go? Okay, then Priya, you can start again.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Somebody started? You, or you just don't want to say anything?
No, like anything.
Murari
Oh,
something.
okay. Fine. Let's start off.
Okay. The power of a paradigm shift. Perhaps the most important insight to be gained from the perception demonstration is in the area of a paradigm shifting, what we might call aha experience, when someone finally sees the composite picture in another way. The more bound a person is by the initial perception, the more powerful the experience is. It's as though a light were suddenly turned on inside. The term paradigm shift was introduced by Thomas Kuhn in his highly influential landmark book, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. Kern shows how almost every significant breakthrough in the field of scientific endeavor is first a break with tradition, with old ways of thinking, with old paradigms. For Ptolemy, the great Egyptian astronomer, the earth was the center of the universe. But Copernicus created a paradigm shift and a great deal of resistance and persecution as well by placing the sun at the center. Suddenly, everything took on a different interpretation. The Newtonian model of physics was the clockwork paradigm and is still the basics of modern engineering. But it was partial, incomplete. The scientific world was revolutionized by the Einstein paradigm, the relativity paradigm, which had much higher predictive and explanatory value. Until the germ theory was developed, a high percentage of women and children died during the childbirth, and no one could understand why. In military skirmishes, more men were dying from small wounds and disease than from major traumas on the front lines. But as soon as the germ theory was developed, a whole new paradigm, a better, improved way of understanding what was happening, made dramatic, significant medical improvement possible. The United States today is the fruit of a paradigm shift. The traditional concept of government for centuries had been monarchy, the divine right of kings. Then a different paradigm was developed government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And a constitutional democracy was born, unleashing tremendous human energy and ingenuity and creating a standard of living, of freedom and liberty, of influence and hope unequaled in the history of the world. Not all paradigm shifts are in positive directions. As we have observed, the shift from the character ethic to the personality ethic has drawn us away from the very roots that nourish true success and happiness. But whether they shift us in a positive or negative directions, whether they are instantaneous or developmental, paradigm shifts move us from one way of seeing the world to another. And those shifts create powerful change. Our paradigms, correct or incorrect, are the sources of our attitudes and behaviors, and ultimately our relationship with others. I remember a mini paradigm shift I experienced one Sunday morning on a subway in New York. People were sitting quietly, some reading newspapers, some lost in thought, some resting with their eyes closed. It was a calm, peaceful scene. Then suddenly, a man and his children entered the subway car. The children were so loud and rambunctious that instantly the whole climate changed. The man sat down next to me and closed his eyes, apparently oblivious to the situation. The children were yelling back and forth, throwing things, even grabbing people's papers. It was very disturbing, and yet the man sitting next to me did nothing. It was difficult not to feel irritated. I could not believe that he could be so insensitive as to let his children run wild like that and do nothing about it, take no responsibility at all. It was easy to see that everyone else on the subway felt irritated too. So, finally, with what I felt was unusual patience and restraint, I turned to him and said, Sir, your children are really disturbing a lot of people. I wonder if you couldn't control them a little more. The man lifted his gaze as if to come to a consciousness of the situation for the first time and said softly, Oh, you are right. I guess I should do something about it. We just came from the hospital where their mother died about an hour ago. I don't know what to think, and I guess they don't know how to handle it either. Can you imagine what I felt at that moment? My paradigm shifted. Suddenly, I saw things differently, and because I saw differently, I thought differently, I felt differently, I behaved differently. My irritation vanished. I didn't have to worry about controlling my attitude or my behavior. My heart was filled with the man's pain. Feelings of sympathy and compassion flowed freely. Your wife just died? Oh, I'm so sorry. Can you tell me about it? What can I do to help? Everything changed in an instant. Many people experience a similar fundamental shift in thinking when they face a life threatening crisis and suddenly see their priorities in a different light, or when they suddenly step into a new role, such as that of a husband or a wife, parent or grandparent, manager or leader. We could spend weeks, months, even years laboring with the personality ethic, trying to change our attitudes and behaviors, and not even begin to approach the phenomenon of change that occurs spontaneously when we see things differently. It becomes obvious that if we want to make relatively minor changes in our lives, we can perhaps appropriately focus on our attitudes and behaviors. But if we want to make significant quantum change, we need to work on our basic paradigms. In the word of Toriu, for every thousand hacking at the leaves of evil, there is one striking at the root. We can only achieve quantum improvements in our lives as we quit hacking at the leaves of attitudes and behavior and get to work on the root, the paradigms from which our attitude and behaviors flow. Next is a different topic, ma'am. Shall we discuss or?
Please, yes, please. So this is a very deep book. I thought the more we discuss, the more people will understand.
Yeah.
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 So, uh, who's going to go first? Please don't make me call. Speak up.
We need to think from the other side also. We should not keep our point only first. I understood this. We need to understand someone's pain. I'm audible, ma'am?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, Fauzia. Yes, Fauzia. We're just good. I'm glad you said that. Murari and Chandrasekhar.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, people that people don't know, but here they think their own world. Here, these people think their own world, but both the people don't know is their own life. He led his own life. He also don't know my wife is died, or here the people don't know. This is my freedom. I enjoy everywhere, anywhere. The children like they enjoy, but the father also not at all to control these children because the father they give freedom for children, no, the father also no, that people have some problem, so they leave their freedom. These people have their own point to unable to explain to someone on the situation. So that coincidence makes it's difficult for that people, but his perception is yes, is we need we need to express someone, we need to understand someone fine when we know that situation really goes on, father knows to that fine of that person. Hello.
I'm
Yes, what,
sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, that's all.
yeah, what you said is correct. Yeah, people have their own perception. Like they think why this man is sitting like this and not controlling his kids. It's so irritating. But only he knows what he is going through. So you have to think like after knowing all that about the man, everything, the perception totally changes. Like the way he feel, the way he believed, the way he felt. Before it was different. So that's how we have to deal with all the situations.
Yes, ma'am, these situations happen in our real life also when we have some problems, but that problem suddenly known people or unknown people come and they enjoy their own field. We unable to stop this nonsense. We unable to stop their enjoyment because they people don't know our problem. So we unable to give suggestions. You should go this side, you not come this side, because there is enjoy their own field. We are the we should also understand their problem also. That's why we should think of both perception of people.
Yes, correct. You're correct. Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. Anyone?
Murari.
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, when we are like doing or like arguing any person, like or talking to another person, like we have to think like how he is speaking, we have to think like his perspective of thinking also, I think.
Exactly.
Uh, Taranjit, would you like to go?
Hello. I'm sorry, my current went and I lost the connection. Yes. Here again, the author says about shifting your mindset. The paradigm, I would put it in an easier word. It is your mindset that you need to shift, because there are so many things that happen around us, and our attitude is towards looking at them is different. And when a little shift happens, like the author said about that meeting that man whose wife has passed away, a very little small thing also can make our mind change, and our behavior, the attitude, the mindset shift, everything happens at the same time. We have a different understanding of the situation.
So can I say what I felt? I felt that um, more often than not, we don't know anybody's stories, right? And we draw conclusions, we get angry, like how everybody in um, the train were very irritated, right? Not one of them knew that the children's mother died, and they just don't know how to behave. And this man is so deep in his grief that he didn't stop his children because he wasn't aware of that, right? You would think that man is just being a lot of people, I'm sure, thought that this man is just being rude. He couldn't care less. But when you really look at it, it is, you don't know anybody's stories, but yet we judge everybody in the same thing, like same brush, right?
Yes,
Exactly.
ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So this is what I understood. I mean, every one of us will understand it differently, but this is what my understanding was. Okay,
When I
chalo.
heard that her wife expired,
Yeah,
automatically my eyes were filled with water.
yeah.
This is
Yeah.
what the book says about that everybody has its own perception. And that is what we are discussing, and everybody has their own point of view to explain.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yeah. That's the first thing even I felt, Fauzia. Oh my God, poor children,
Yeah, ma'am.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, we should think also this perception, like perception, ma'am. Like children have not have that much of mentally grow, like mentally growth. I have not have what way unable to control their thoughts. They maybe mentally we should think that person also. Those of father they give freedom for those children. So we should think a different way also, ma'am. Like children have not like physically good compared to other people. So they give father they give their own world for children.
No, here, Chandrasekhar, it was more to do with the fact that the children are so young, they don't know how to react. See, they're all the young children, right? So how will they know how to react? So you can't expect an adult's reaction from a small child.
Okay, okay.
Yeah? How can you know this child will react? How? See, you're looking at it from an adult point of view, right?
Like yes, ma'am. But I thought children maybe like 6 to 10 age between maybe I thought.
Even if they're that age, they will not be able to, so a lot of children, because the adult in the family is in a way in distress, so the father itself is in distress. So this is my point of view. You are right to have your point of view. This is my point of view, is that man was so full of um, pain that he was not aware of his surroundings. And what do the children do? They can't, their mother is no more. Who will stop them from behaving? Nobody is there to make them understand what happened. So they react in a way that gives them attention. What do they want? They want attention. And the father is not in a place where he can give attention. Right?
Mm. And
Yes, ma'am.
also in the first paragraph, like in the first part, there is a different paradigm shift that happened when the germ theory was introduced. So before the germ theory, nobody know why the women was dying after the birth and uh, why the military people were dying because of the small wounds. So as soon as they know the germ theory, the paradigm shift happened, and people made like they came to know the reason for the people for dying in the with a small wound and everything. So that's a positive way of germ theory. Like germ theory is the positive paradigm shift. So it can be both negative and positive.
True, true, true.
And also we can think over here like about that train thing, that the mother would have been controlling the children, and the father, because he is in deep grief, he is not in his senses also to control them, and the mother is no more to tell them not to do all this. So this could also be one part of our understanding. One way of understanding could be this also.
Okay, so we can go forth. Is everybody told? Murari, have you told what you wanted?
Yeah, ma'am, I have to.
Yeah. Okay, so we can go to the next portion. Do you have time how big is the next portion, Priya?
Question. Yeah, it's very small, ma'am. We can finish.
Okay, then let's finish and we'll discuss and close the meeting.
Yeah. Okay. Seeing and being. Of course, not all paradigm shift are instantaneous. Unlike my instant insight on the subway, the paradigm shifting experience Sandra and I had with our son was a slow, difficult, and deliberate process. The approach we had first taken with him was the outgrowth of years of conditioning and experience in the personality ethic. It was the result of deeper paradigms where we held about our own success as parents as well as the measure of success of our children. And it was not until we changed those basic paradigms, until we saw things differently, that we were able to create quantum change in ourselves and in the situation. In order to see our son differently, Sandra and I had to be differently. Our new paradigm was created as we invested in the growth and development of our own character. Paradigms are inseparable from character. Being is seeing in the human dimension, and what we see is highly irrelated to what we are. We can't go very far to change our seeing without simultaneously changing our being, and vice versa. Even in my apparently instantaneous paradigm shifting experience that morning on the subway, my change of vision was a result of an I and limited by my basic character. I'm sure there are people who, even suddenly understanding the true situation, would have felt no more than a twinge of regret or vague guilt as they continued to sit in the embarrassed silence besides the grieving, confused man. On the other hand, I'm equally certain that there are people who would have been far more sensitive in the first place, who may have recognized that a deeper problem existed and reached out to understand and help before I did. Paradigms are powerful because they can create the lens through which we see the world. The power of a paradigm shift is the essential power of quantum change, where that shift is an instantaneous or a slow and deliberate process. Yeah, ma'am, this is done.
Okay. So, what do each of you understand of what this passage is all about? It's a very short passage, but very, very deep one. So, I will go what I understand that, each of us react to situations differently. And many a time we have to change the way we think to be able to react to things differently. Okay, this is my takeaway. What about the rest of you? And then we can close the meeting.
I agree with you, ma'am. What you said is correct, ma'am.
What about the rest of
Yeah,
you?
yeah, ma'am. Like we have to think like other perspective also, like how they like how should we react to people who are like how we like in what situation like they are reacting in that. We have to think it.
Okay, true. Yes, we have to just give people a little chance to, uh, just stop and not judge and first ask them what's happening and find out the reason. And then, you can think of making decisions then. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Chandrasekhar and Taranjit.
Uh, yes, ma'am. And also, I share this thought being is a thing in a human dimension. It is a very important point, ma'am. When we say a human dimensions for everything, like behavior also, like whatever we saw in our surroundings, that's a positive everywhere. By seeing like whatever we saw our surroundings or anything wherever we saw, by watching in positive perception, is everything good for us also and those also. When we seeing other perception, like other people negative perception, that makes a more painful, like not painful, it's like a good. So being as seeing other perception is in positive way is good, ma'am.
Yes, Chandrasekhar, it is good, but you also have to be a little more careful. You can't, so you have to watch. So you have to watch people before you come to a conclusion. Oh, these people are good, these people are bad. Okay? At least
I
this is
want to
what I
share,
understand.
yeah, I want to share one thing, ma'am, here.
Yeah, yeah,
So
please.
the author is saying, like, he and his wife, they have a son. So, so only if they change, like the basic, from the basic, if they change, they will see the change in their children, like in their son. So that is the being is seeing. So when they change themselves, they will see change.
True.
So I like.
See, the thing is, I don't know if you read the earlier thing. So they were very proud of the fact that the rest of the children were behaving in a way where the whole society agreed. There's this one child who wasn't behaving that way. And it took a lot of thinking on the parents' part to understand how to deal with him. And they had to change the way they thought about themselves to see the fact that the child is different. And then the child got confidence and he achieved so many things. So the parents had to change the way they thought about themselves and what they felt. Okay, so it's like this: when a child is well behaved, a lot of parents think it's because of them. Okay, we forget there's something called nature. So if people come and praise my children, is it my because I brought them up that way? Partly, yes, but partly also from what they are as people. I have to also remember that. That's what the author and his wife realized. That, uh, so one day my child is very, very polite. One day he's impolite. So I have to find out the reason why he's impolite instead of scolding him. I mean, I have to change the way I think. That's what I understood, because you'll have to read the book from first again for you to get this part. But basically, he thought differently because they had to do a lot of soul searching. The way they looked at themselves as parents, also, they had to relook. Okay, so this is what I understood. Please come to your own conclusions after reading it again. And anybody else wants to go?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, Taranjit, we have just a minute.
Yeah. I agree to many of the points that you said. It is only just everybody has a unique way of seeing things. There's a unique lens that everybody, God has given their personality, their perspectives, everybody, but many a times we don't conform to the norms laid down by the society. And there the problem starts, like explaining myself that yes, whatever I am is not wrong, but it takes time for people to understand, and we have to be more passionate, more I would say empathetic to understand the other person's point of view.
True, 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 true. And I think that's it. We can close the meeting. Thank you, everyone, for your time. And thank you so much, Priya. It was really nice to listen to you. And everyone, thank you so much for your opinions.
Thank you so much, Priya,
Thank
for
you.
for us, and thanks everyone.
Thank you.
ma'am.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, ma'am. Good night.